I just want to give you a bit of an insight into the AFL Enjoyers team. We're a bunch of unique individuals, Matsa, Sfenda, and Dean. We're going to engage with our minds and our hearts. We're going to exchange ideas, thoughts, and even our energy. And to speak from your heart, you need to have courage. You need to be honest and authentic. We're not always going to get it right, and sometimes you're not going to agree with us. But that's okay, because just like you, we care. Just like you, we're passionate about the game. So if you want to come along for the ride, join us at the AFL Enjoyers podcast, because we really enjoy the footy. Hello and welcome back to the AFL Enjoyers podcast. I am Dean, joined once again by two fellow enjoyers of the AFL, James Matsa and a returning George Sfenda.
I'm back, baby.
That's it.
I'm back.
That's it.
Welcome back, George.
Return from injury, return from illness.
That's it, man. It's good to have him back, mate.
Massive inclusion. Right, we ain't losing this game with me back in the team.
Huge inclusion. The Enjoyers community was a bit sus that you happened to miss the pod right after an embarrassing Carlton loss, and you're back after a 100-point win, but we'll let it slide.
Oh, no, yeah, that's very true, man.
Look, man, conspiracy theorists will read into that. Don't worry about it, man.
So you'll be reading into it, or?
Yes, I'll be reading into it. It's true. It is 100% true.
No.
No, I was dying on my deathbed, and I saw like God was calling. You know, it was over for me. And I'm like, but what about the podcast? And he's like, you know what? Fair enough. I also want to see whether Carlton makes the finals. So I'm back, resurrected, and ready to go.
You know what? I'm not sure if it's the real George Sfenda, though, because he's gone from clipboard to no clipboard, but sheet of paper. Now he's on the phone. So maybe it's a clone.
It is a bit odd, man. Not going to lie, man. I missed the clipboard already.
Yeah, the real George Sfenda has a little pimple right there. I don't, but we won't read into that.
That's all right. We'll let it slide. So, boys, actually, before we got into the games this week, like usual, I did want to just mention a bit of breaking news in the AFL. Not that anyone cares, but there's a new CEO in town.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Andrew Dillon. Yes, that's his name.
What do you think of him?
Look, I was just going to say, like, sorry to cut you off there, Matsa. I think we can all agree no one cares, but we will judge him solely on how well he pronounces the votes, or rather how he pronounces names and reads the votes on Brownlow night. So
that's fair. And as long as he doesn't try to move North Melbourne like every other CEO the last like 20 years, we'll take it, I guess.
Well, speaking of that, Tassie, new
hey,
team.
Yeah.
flowers for Tassie.
Flowers for Tassie, man. We're going to be sending our flowers down.
Are you guys going to remain North Melbourne supporters when they move to Tassie?
Get stuff, man.
Yeah, no, exactly. Good response, Theona.
Speaking of the Tassie team,
Yeah.
I was sort of thinking, what are they going to name this team? Because it's a bit cringe if they name it like Tassie Devils or like
Tassie Tigers.
something. Yeah, that's crap.
There's already a Tigers anyway.
So, does anyone have an idea? I've thought up one, which is a little bit lame and off center for an AFL team, but I think it might actually work.
Yeah, throw it out there, man.
Tasmania United. A bit of a football, soccer influence there.
It's not really consistent with the other teams.
It's not at all. But neither is Suns and neither is Giants.
Well, my answer was Suns, because I know we take the piss out of the Roos, but I think the Suns are headed down there.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know,
Tassie
man.
Suns.
No one wants to play for the Suns.
I think just because it's
interesting.
one team for
Yeah.
all of Tasmania and the whole Launceston, Hobart, I guess, debate and whatever, unite them up a bit. Let's go Tassie United.
What about Tassie Ferries?
Tassie Ferries, mate.
the boats.
The boats.
Tasmanian boats.
Tasmanian boats. Sorry, we'll cook something up maybe.
Yeah. Something I was thinking, like, because, like, do they have, like, bad weather? Like, I don't know, like the Tasmanian Thunder? You know what I mean? Like, I know there's already the Port Power and they've got, like, some, lightning bolts, but, like, Tassie Thunder?
The Tassie Fresh Produce.
The Tassie Fresh Produce, yeah. Tassie Casino.
What about the Tassie climate?
Tassie Climates.
Tassie Oysters or Salmons.
There's options.
I think it'll be the
Options.
Crocs.
Tassie Crocs.
The
Crocs.
Are there Crocs in Tasmania?
Like, you're talking about, like, the shoes or the animals? Like?
Yeah, the shoes.
Anyway, we'll watch this space on the name there. Maybe we can come up with some better
We'll
ones.
workshop it.
We'll workshop it off air. Okay, let's get into the games this week, boys. We had a Friday night, bit of a cracking game actually, between the Saints and Port. Port actually edged out the Saints, so we got our tip wrong. What did you guys make of that one?
I'm just a little bit sad that Port keep winning and we've got their draft pick, but
I was filthy.
yeah, no. But look, good on them for responding. Horn Francis specifically for responding, because he had a poor game last week. This week he actually looked really good. There was a moment in the game where Jack Steele, one of the premier tacklers in the competition, like he tackled him and got, holding the ball, but you could tell that took every fiber of Steele's being to get him down. So it just shows, the strength and the physical attributes that Horn Francis has, that, it took Steele everything to get him down.
He was looking very explosive, especially compared to the Saints midfield, who don't really have that guy that explodes out of the pack. He just looked like next level athletic.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Jason Horne-Francis. He was insane. 11 clearances. My favourite stat. Next best in the team was 3, and I think most had 2. So he was amazing. I mentioned it in the previous podcast that Port Adelaide's midfield of Horne-Francis, Butters, and Rosie is very young, but very good, and it just sets them up a lot for their future. So irrespective of whether they are successful this year, I think their midfield's going to get better and better, and build with Wines as well as kind of the leader. So I think they're in good stead.
And plus they have Boku, gives them a bit of a chop out, and when they needed that bit of experience, he goes in there, and he had his best game of the year. Yeah. So
I actually had written that down as well, and I feel like the last couple of years he started really slowly, and everyone's thinking, oh yeah, Boke's sort of done now, he's old. And then he just turns his form a few weeks into the season, and he was incredible the other night. Best on ground in my opinion.
He was, one of his goals was like kind of like the clutch winner. Or was that the previous week? No, that was the previous week, sorry.
Well, he was just clean though. He was always hitting the right targets, playing the smart pass, and just great work rate as well. So he was a big reason why they wrestled back control in the second half, in my opinion.
They also have a really versatile player in Finlayson.
Yes.
Who was one of my favourite players that was playing for GWS. He moved. He plays forward, he plays back. He went back and took a couple of important marks in the last minutes of the game. He can play a ruck as well. He's a gun.
Yeah. Plays there at the backup role really well. Kicks his goals, and he's got a good kick as well. Like as well as his versatility, he's got a really good left foot. Another player who I saw a tweet from a Port Adelaide supporter, and I like to shout out players who the fans notice and appreciate. Jed McEntee, high pressure, high effort forward, gets on the scoreboard. He's really found his niche, as the pressure forward. And now that I've said that, he's probably going to get dropped this week. But good on Jed McEntee.
Well, you need those players.
McEntee, have you said that name?
I think. Yeah, you do need those players though. You've got Finlayson, Charlie Dixon. Someone's got to be at their feet, applying pressure and kicking goals. That's a small forward. So
him, DB, Darcy Byrne-Jones as well, playing half forward as well. So you need the smaller guys to complement the big boys, and they're doing that role quite nicely.
100%. What do we make of the Saints? Knowing we talked a bit about power.
Well, they've gone into that game top of the table, playing really good footy, and in my opinion, in that first half, they were playing pretty well and had control of the game, but just unlike the other weeks, they didn't find that extra gear to really put away Port. And credit to Port Adelaide, in the second half, they really wrestled back the momentum. They were just that bit tougher, a bit cleaner, a bit more clinical. I think if the Saints play most other teams, they finish them. Port was just really, really good. I think the Saints are still on the right track, though, to be honest.
Yeah, Saints they're still on track for probably a top 6 minimum finish. Also, that's at the very worst, I think. So yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned if I was a Saints fan. I'd still be very, very high on on the boys.
Yeah, so, and actually, someone we didn't mention for Port. Speaking of the small forwards, Willie Rioli was fantastic. There was that one goal he scored where he sold the candy and did a banana from about 30 meters in front. But yeah, mate, love a good selling of the candy, and he just made it look so silky. Yeah, good stuff from him.
He's such a good player, man. I know he had that drug scandal. Out of favour at West Coast, but Port really picked up a beauty. And a lot of teams need a really good, skillful small forward like him, and Port have him.
Yeah.
Again, the small forward market this year is crazy.
Matsa's on small forward watch this
year. There's so many good ones, man. So many good ones. You add Willie Rioli. I forgot about him. Add him to the list, man.
Add him to the list. Well, I'll tell you what, who's not a small forward, but he kicked one of the best goals of the year, if not the best goal of the year in the next game.
Yeah.
As a small dude, Mr. Ashcroft. What a goal and a solid win from the Lions, but I think that goal is really the main talking point of that game.
Yeah, well, like I've written in my notes, Daniel Wells walked so Ashcroft can run.
Oh,
and
wow.
Man, it was better than Wellesley's
That's a
goals.
beautiful quote, Matsa.
Yeah.
Poetic, my
Yeah,
friend.
it was quite
Matt's
poetic.
about to say, I
Yeah, no,
agree,
that was
I
a really
agree.
good quote.
Yeah, I'm really good.
Yeah, man. Nah, the thing that made it even harder than the Wellesley one, Wellesley, obviously, it was quick thinking, but you could see the trajectory of the ball in the air and,
And
he
he's
jumps
directly
at
in
it.
front.
And he's directly in front. Whereas Ashcroft, he taps it to himself on the boundary and still has the presence of mind to be like, you know what? I'm going to, smack it onto the boot. Yeah.
I don't know how it went in. I watched it a couple of times. And I couldn't work out how the ball did that, but he made it work.
He's a very, very skillful player with great instincts. So I feel like it's not the last we're going to see of him scoring incredible goals, to be honest.
Absolutely. The thing that makes me feel better as well is that like he's not going to go at the end of the season and not get an award because Sheasel's winning the Rising Star, and so he can get goal of the year. So everyone's happy.
There you go, man.
So I'm
Spread the
I'm
love.
happy for him, man.
100%.
That was his best game as well. That was definitely his best game. So
Yeah.
shout out to him, man.
He took over, and I think Freo, credit to them to an extent, they came out of the blocks really trying to play more exciting football through the corridor and
Tried the handball a bit
try
more.
the handball game. It was working a
Yeah.
little bit, but just not enough, and they were getting punished going the other way.
It's kind of weird that they went from chip kick to handball, and neither have worked.
Well,
And then
that
they
is-
went back to chip kick and it didn't work either.
Well, that's when you know you're a
Yeah.
team that's not all working as a unit because there's no sort of playing on instinct. It's just, okay, we're doing this week. And everyone's just thinking we need to do that and not actually reading the game. And it got him in trouble.
What happened to Freo, man? Let's not forget these guys made the finals last year. We're a pretty threatening team. Melbourne were on that run, that 10-goal run, 10-game winning streak run, and Freo beat them at MCG. A really powerful team. And what are they this year? They've got no identity.
It is a strange one. They've got a lot of those players are still around. They recruited Luke Jackson and
They lost Lob,
Jager O'Meara,
and they lost Logue, and they lost Akers.
but they brought in O'Meara and Luke Jackson. So
But I guess that gets rid of two key forwards because they were playing Logue in the forward line. And even though Logue obviously is a better defender, he still provided the marking target, and he always provides effort. So I think that is probably the biggest
even
out
just
for them.
getting it to the forward line in the first place just doesn't look smooth though. So
Yeah.
something's just wrong with the whole system, in my opinion.
I think they need a former Brownlow medalist maybe to come in and just
Fefe.
Fifis.
Fifi.
Oh, Fifi.
Nathaniel.
Get all Nathaniel Fife back in there, and I picked him up in my Supercoach draft, so I'm hoping he comes back in and starts doing well. Come on, man.
Yeah, he might. But I'll tell you what, look, the Lions did what they had to do. They've
Yeah.
scored a lot of goals lately. Their forward line and just getting bags of goals from a variety of sources. So they're looking pretty formidable.
Yeah, they're pretty strong. A little bit disappointing for them. They got injuries to Zorko and Rich. They're kind of some experienced players that are going to be out for a little while. I don't know exactly how long, but not a 1 week injury. So I don't know how that affects them. But obviously, Rich, and Zorko drive a lot of the ball from the back line. So we'll see how we go with them.
I feel like Zorko just plays with the torn hamstring. Every week he's limping off. They're icing his hammies every week. He always looks like he's limping out there, but he still does the business, so I'm sure he'll be fine.
Yeah, fair call. They do have a tough next couple of weeks with Carlton and then the Dons. So we'll see how they go with that. With possibly those guys missing games, but they're on track. They're on track, Brisbane.
Yeah.
So
Now, the next game was a very good game. The Swans losing another close game to the Giants. I did want to just shout out before we even talk about the game.
yeah,
The Giants social media people were just in fine form. Before the game,
Yep.
announcing the game day post, like, today's the day, whatever, they actually wrote South Melbourne versus GWS.
Oh,
Got a bit
that's
of stick
interesting.
from some Swans fans.
Yeah, fair enough.
But hey, they delivered. They got the win.
Yeah, no, that's it, man. I was going to say, I've got one guy I'm going to give flowers to. He kicked 3 goals and he was a bit of a force in the guts. Perryman.
Yes, I actually wrote flowers for Perryman as
There
well.
we
in my
go,
notes.
man. There we go. I got in there before you.
Do I have Perriman
So-
there? Please tell me I've got him. No, I don't.
Nah, did you watch the game? Nah. Perryman looks really good, man. Another tall-ish midfielder. Has a bit of presence to him. So
Some say he's got Bont potential, mate.
he's
No one says that at all. Not one person.
I know he went. He's probably still predominantly going to be known as a tagger, but hopefully he's. I don't know. I like Perriman. We'll give him that.
I'm glad you mentioned him because obviously Toby Green kicks the winning
Yeah.
goal and he's always a force for them.
Yeah.
But they really got some contributors in that last quarter. to come back in a really interesting game. I mean, the Swans played pretty well and had the lead, and I don't know what's going on with them, mate. They've choked up another one. Any ideas like what's wrong with Sydney this year?
I think it's pretty. To be honest, I think it's obvious. I think it's the defense obviously undermanned with all those injuries. McCartan, what was it? Yeah, Paddy's still out, and he might not play. Who knows? Hopefully he's back. Knock on wood, he can play footy again. Tom McCartan, I think, did he go out at one point during the game? Anyway,
Possibly,
what's it called? Yeah, those guys. The defense is a bit of a shambles right now.
Rampy's out as well.
Rampy's out. And then the forward line is shambolic as well. Like Buddy's not really, he's not really in form, and
They're going to him a lot, and I think that's making him a bit predictable as well.
yeah, they don't have Sam Reed there to, break packs and, give another option. So I just think, the lack of key position players at their disposal right now that's really what it is.
And they missed a lot of easy set shots at goal to kill the game off. Like Heaney had one from about, I'll say 35 out on a slight angle. It was pretty dead on centre. And he kicked it on the full. Like some really horrendous shots at goal. And the Giants just made the most of their chances, quite
Sydney
frankly.
would be absolutely kicking themselves to lose the game against Port, to lose this one as well. It's such a competitive league to drop 2 games like that.
And in between, they've gotten absolutely whacked by Geelong. And this was the response game. You got your rivals coming up, and you've had the lead. Everything's going swimmingly, and you've just blown it completely. So I don't know if they'll hit the panic button. They've got a really good culture there, and you back them into fine form at some point. But man, it's been a nightmare month for the Swans.
Yeah, I guess the one positive thing you can get is that their midfield, they were starting to get their numbers again. You know what I mean? Like Warner and Goulden.
Warner had a massive last quarter as well.
Yeah, so that's, at least there's signs that there's still life there. It's just right now with all those key positions out and you're not kicking the ball well enough, makes it really hard.
Can I just not call out, that's a bit harsh, but I just want to raise a bit of attention on something I noticed recently, which is you mentioned the Swans defence. They're lacking a few of their big boys there, but I'm a bit suspicious of what's going on with their smaller players playing in defence. Like you've got Jake Lloyd there, and then you've got Ollie Florent, who by all accounts can't defend, mate. This guy, there was some footage I saw on Fox Footy. He's just miles off his man. He lost Toby Green on a few goals. My question is, you've got Blakey there for a bit of run. You've got Jake Lloyd, trusty. Why do you need him there if your defence is struggling? Surely you just find someone who can actually mark a man. Because I don't know how much he's contributing overall to their ball movement, to be honest.
I feel like they've got a lot of halfback options. Florence typically more like a wing.
Correct.
So Braden Campbell as well. There's heaps of them. They're a team of halfbacks. That's it. So
Left-footed, blonde-haired halfbacks.
That's it. It's like your Supercoach draft team. Just halfbacks, man.
It's a draft dream, really.
Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that because we're talking about their defence leaking goals, and you're playing this guy that's small and can't defend on Toby Green, of all players. So, bit sus.
Actually, another thing that I realised as well, Whitfield had one of his better games on a game where he was tagged. Does that make any sense to you guys?
No, not for
Whitfield. Makes no sense at all in general, to be honest.
He doesn't. He needed someone to annoy him throughout the game to realise, all right, I've got to run and actually get some kicks and, be useful. Because he hasn't been great this year. And that might be just him sharing the responsibility, sharing the halfback, rebounding load with Lockie Ash and Isaac Cumming. But yeah, he finally had a decent game. So
the other thing is Himmelberg was the one that wrestled the contest and actually gave it out to Green to kick the winning goal. So he was big in the final moments again, Himmelberg.
Clutch player, man. Clutch player, Himmelberg. He's a talented footballer, and as we were talking about last week, hopefully he doesn't re-sign and comes to Melbourne and plays for North. That'd be very nice.
I'm working on getting the inside scoop on that one. So
work on it harder.
I'll work harder.
I need more news, bro. I need more Dino's insider. What's it called? Sources.
That's it, man. I'm working on it. I promise. Let's move on to the next game. The Dogs v the Hawks. Now, the Hawks put up, again, a really great fight for parts of the game. I think Matsa's been saying recently they're not losing any admirers.
No, they're not losing any admirers with the way they've been playing, even in those losses.
They fell short again. The Dogs just overpowered them. Once they realised there was a game on their hands, they upped the ante and got it done.
Bont was looking at Will Day and I'm like, this fake Bont is not going to do it.
Bont's 200th, by the way.
Hey.
Friend of the pod. Well done.
That's him, man. No, well done, Mark. The weird thing with Bont is that, he's such a low-key dude. You know what I mean? Like there was no buzz around his 200th game. This is the best. Like this is top 3 player, if not the best player in the league right now. Where's the buzz and excitement?
There
for
was
his
more
200?
buzz for Goldstein's 300 than there was. For
No. Look, that might be because we're North fans
Yeah,
and we
true.
just it's in our face a bit more. But yeah, nah.
He seems like a humble guy, Bont.
Yeah, maybe he's kind of like, guys, can you just take it easy on the, don't, it's not about me, it's about the team. And maybe it was one of those things. I don't know. But yeah, no, he had another great game. He's in fine form this year.
Absolutely. And before we move on, I have a bouquet. How do you say? Bouquet of flowers.
He says that, you meant to say bouquet. I think it's a place in like
bouquet
Thailand.
of flowers for my boy Mitch Lewis.
Hey, yes,
This
what
guy,
a
he was-
return.
Yeah, he was massive.
He's huge.
I wasn't sure if I was watching Mitch Lewis or Jonathan Brown, mate. This guy,
Oh.
he was true centre half forward performance.
Yeah.
Marking the ball on the half forward flank, up the wing, in the forward line. 9 marks, I think he had. Hang on, I wrote it down. 9 marks in the first half. And they weren't easy ones.
No, they weren't. It's a shame he couldn't finish his work because it would have been like one of the biggest first games you've seen in a first quarters you've seen in a long time.
Yep.
And he was coming up against Liam Jones as well, who's a very capable defender. So yeah, Mitch Lewis he's that boy, man. He's that boy.
He was crazy good. But yeah, look, the Dogs, like I said, when the going got tough, Bevo had a word to them at halftime. They just destroyed the Hawks in the second half.
It was quite even to half time. You're right. I think you're also right about the Hawks being quite competitive. They've been in some really close games over the last couple of weeks. If they had swung a little bit in their way, they'd be doing it was only a couple of weeks ago when Sam Mitchell was under significant fire that the Hawks wouldn't win a game this year. They've been pretty good since then, and they're also relatively hard to score against because the margin was pretty close even in the third quarter, even in the fourth quarter. The Dogs never really blew them away, and it took the Dogs 17 minutes to kick their first goal in the fourth quarter. So they obviously managed them to some extent. Never really a chance of winning, I think, the Hawks, but the Dogs wouldn't have been too stressed, but they couldn't really blow them away either. So it's encouraging.
And the Dogs just held them to 2 goals in the second half. So by just raising the intensity and blocking them out, it didn't take much to blow the game out at that point.
The other thing that was mentioned on the broadcast, which I thought was interesting, the Dogs get 28% of their goals from free kicks, which is the number 1 in the league. So no more blaming Carlton for free kicks, mate. It's the Dogs you should worry about.
Yeah, true. I was gonna say.
I reckon Cody Waitman has a bit to say for the free kicks, but
yeah, he's
the astronaut as well.
Yeah, true. They're both. I think Waitman specifically. He's a bit of a free kick merchant.
Probably Aaron Norton as well. Seems like the umpires would just love him and just get around him as well.
You touch his headband, instant 50,
That's
mate.
it, man. That's it. How'd you like that one? Though, free kick merchant.
Merchant, I loved it.
Yeah, it's like Joel Embiid foul merchant.
Hey, man. When you foul the big fella, it's a foul.
Hey, fair.
There's no foul merchant happening.
Oh, I don't know, bro. I don't know, man. I've seen some footage of Big Jojo, but anyway, that's a story for another pod.
It is. Now, look, the next game happened Saturday night. We had a couple absolute thrillers. I was watching North, and I thought, man, it doesn't get much worse than this. And then I saw the little score pop up in the bottom right. I'm like, actually, it does.
Yeah, I felt made me feel a bit better.
We praised the broadcast at the AFL for lining up really big games at the start of the season. They got Saturday night wrong.
They botched it, mate.
Yeah.
I actually don't really see, did they really think that North or West Coast would be that competitive this year where you can put them up against two, at the start of the year, Carlton and Melbourne are going to be top 8, Melbourne possibly top 4 teams. It's just bad. Poorly done there.
Fixturing was bad. Look, the sad part is I lay here on this couch right here because we do film in my living room. And I'm just watching... Spoiler alert, inside a scoop there. But
yeah.
I lie and I watch the whole thing. Like, what is wrong with me? Why do I subject myself to
I
this
had
torture?
I had it in the background as well. I'm just kind of like, oh, now that happened, and now that happened.
I'm watching
Is it not a little bit fun to kind of watch? When it gets that bad, is it not a little bit fun to just see the goals pile on?
No.
Look, not when it's not. Look, not when it's not yet.
I'm just weird.
Nah, what were you back in the day when Carlton were bad? Were you sitting there just
They
going?
lost a lot of games, man. I'm like, give it to them, man. Show them how shit they are.
Look, I did get a bit savage at one point. Look, talking about the actual game,
Yeah.
all I really wanted was to not get embarrassed. I did call on the pod last week, 100-point loss, and I wasn't kidding. we just come out of the blocks looking so bad. And then it got even worse when I saw, I didn't even need the replay or to see him injured, but Charlie Common, get well soon, friend of the pod. That guy can't catch a break, mate.
Yeah.
That's a bad injury.
It's sad as well because he's just such a high effort player as well, man. Like, very hard to see him go down.
I saw it happen live. I had my hand in my head. I just felt sick after that. The rest of the game, I was just watching it like just numb, really. Like,
Did it
sucks.
fire up North at all? Did that get him going?
That's the worst thing. I said, this better fire them up. I better see something from the boys. And it's hard to know if Melbourne just laid off a bit, but clearly not because they just scored goals for fun. Look, Matsa, what did you take from North? We've been bad lately, mate. Having people that I've seen recently say, oh, there's some positives there, maybe trying to make me feel good. But
I think they just watched the first 2 rounds of AFL.
Yeah, probably.
Those people, seriously, like, because right now, it's dire straits right now. Like, this... were you saying to me that they're going to look to start playing the young guys and just get over this actually trying to be, competitive? Like we shouldn't. There's no point having these old guys out there.
Clarko said in his presser last week, the intention is to play some senior players like your Daniel Howes, Liam Shields, Hugh Greenwoods and the like, Kane Turner even, play them to help the youngsters so that they're not just thrown into the wolves essentially. And then he did also say, if it's not working, like we're going to get whacked anyway, then we're going to have no option but to blood the kids. And then he reinforced that message after the game this week. So if I don't see Kane Turner out, for example, if I don't see Dan Howe and Shields out, like what are we doing? Will Phillips shouldn't be getting dropped every second week. You've got Wardlaw, they're managing him. I respect that because he's had a bit of an injury history last year. Play the kid now. We need something to get us excited.
Well, look, to be honest... Are we playing in Melbourne next week?
Playing the Saints.
There we go. That's a good game to debut Wardlaw in my eyes. Because I don't want it to be the next week against Port. Like the next week against Port,
Actually, do
in Tassie. Actually,
let him clean up, Jason.
Hey, true. But if he's gonna make that his second game, where he's warmed up a little bit. I don't know. Tom Powell went down as well. CCJ went down. It just kept getting worse, man. It kept getting worse, and it's. I don't know. It was a rough night.
Yeah,
that was a really rough night. The thing I will say is, just we got to bleed young guys. Wilfield needs to play. Drury needs to play. I don't even know who else we got. To be honest,
Josh Goder in for Aaron Hall.
Yes,
come on,
and
mate.
Miller Bergman as well. Miller Bergman, get those guys in because it's just I don't know.
We need to see
Howe and Shields and Tucker. Actually, Tucker wasn't too. He's not too bad.
Tucker's okay, but Anyway, we should say some nice things about Melbourne, George. You can do that for us, mate. I'm needing a break.
The thing is, Dean, I didn't watch this game.
You didn't need to, mate. Just say nice things about Oliver and Petrarca, and that's it.
I was watching another game, which we'll get to. I
I
watched the first 5 minutes because North started 5 minutes before Carlton game.
Yeah.
And I remember we're texting each other. I'm like, let's see. I was being a bit cheeky and saying, look, I don't know who's going to win this one, North or Melbourne. And then within the first 20 seconds, Chandler's already kicked the goal. I'm like, never mind.
All right, you know what? If we're gonna talk about good stuff, Chandler. There we go. Flowers to Chandler.
He's a good player, man.
He's great, man. He's killing it at the moment, man. Yeah. Like if Sheasel and Ashcroft didn't exist, he's winning the Rising Star. Like who's third?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Did he get the Rising Star nom this week?
No,
it was Callahan
got it.
Oh,
Ollie Holland still needs to get his nomination at some point.
Look, Melbourne, they were just way too experienced for us. Footy's an infectious sport as well. Sometimes when you're a team like North and you can't get a handball going, it's just like it's contagious. Then everyone loses their ability. Meanwhile, Melbourne's just humming on fine form, kicking goals for fun, very accurate as well, which didn't help.
Yeah, well, when the game's like that, Melbourne's motivated to keep running, keep getting more ball, keep getting more goals.
Percentage.
It's easy to run hard and chase hard when you know that you're likely to get some reward out of it, like a goal, possessions, whatever.
That's it.
North is the complete opposite. They're getting smashed. Their players have been injured. They have less incentive to keep going, and it just builds a massive rift.
I did want to mention as well, Cozzy Pickett, after the game, actually, he's resigned for 4 years now with Melbourne. So
Huge for them, man.
some would
Huge.
say courageous of him to stay with his club.
I know.
Um,
Yeah, that's it.
Not so courageous if they're a premiership threat, but
Yeah, true. I've got a few grievances to air as well, actually, boys, before we finish up here.
All right, let's
The
go.
first one is a very obvious one. I'm sure you'll all agree. Razor Ray, mate, you're an absolute flog.
Thank you. That was the word I was going to use.
North is down big. I can't remember at the time how much it was. Jaden Stevenson tackles. I can't remember who it was. It was a bit high, but there was also an element of a bit of going in with your head first from the Melbourne player. So debatable whether it was a free kick, but I'm completely fine with it being called. And Jaden's just sort of looked at the umpire, a bit of dissent. And you know what? That first 50, sure, no worries. Then as they're running during the 50-metre penalty, all he sort of did, Stevenson, was like lunge in, like he ducked and he said something like
Yeah,
that.
he said, what was I meant to do?
What was I meant to do?
What was
He
I meant to
ducked
do?
and he did that, just bopped his head down.
Yeah.
And Razor goes, whistle, give it another 50.
You know what it is?
and didn't he do the hand? Didn't he do like the
then he's
hand?
like, give it another one.
Yeah, you know what it is, man.
Right.
He's honestly, he's just, I don't want to go into personal attacks, so I'm not going to do it.
No,
but
but-
I think he realized that Stevenson, right? He realized that Stevenson was right, and then he's like, you know what? I'm not having it. Give him another one.
Yeah.
That's what I reckon happened because, like, that's the thing. Stevenson, he was there, and the guy burrowed into him. Sorry, he burrowed into him. Like, what is?
And the dissent rule is in place, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
to stop and rightfully abusing the umpires. Because when I'm watching soccer or something, I don't like seeing the players get right up in the ref's face and swearing at him. Like, we don't
Yeah.
need that.
NBA, it's even worse, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we don't need that at all. Now, when you're just saying he ducked, what was I supposed to do or whatever, like that's not a threatening thing to do to an umpire, in my opinion. Anyway,
Yeah, I think, what was it? He was the initial thing that he did. And I've realized that, like, so in footy, this is the usual, like, response to, like, a bad call. In soccer, it's kind of like,
yeah, there's sort of like,
you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
the
There's
hand-
sort
it's
of
more
like,
Italian.
more
yeah,
European.
it's more Italian.
No, fair enough.
No, I
yeah.
get what you guys are saying. I think the dissent rule, no one really likes it when it's taken too far, and I think it's taken too far basically all the time nowadays because no one's really going off at the umpires.
Correct.
But the other thing is the last thing you ever want in an AFL match is an umpire having a personality.
Correct.
Umpires are not there for their personality. It's not
Thank
a first
you.
date,
Yeah.
right? If this guy thinks that he can act like, we should know who the umpire is. We should know their name. We shouldn't be able to identify that that's Razor Ray and he's got Specsavers on. Like the fact that he's influencing like that, showing his personality, doing this stuff, like he's Sam Walsh kicking a goal. Like,
100%.
leave me alone,
And
man.
It's
It's
especially
disgusting.
Yeah,
I didn't even watch it and I hate it.
and 100%, man. And look, just one final thing on that, which is you shouldn't umpire the game differently depending on the score. I 100% agree. But it sucks when you're getting belted and then the umpire's just gifting Melbourne a goal from a 100-meter penalty. Like, it's kicking a team while they're down. It just sucks.
Umpires need to be able to look at the game and read it.
Take an L, man.
Yeah.
Take an L. Like,
And it's the same thing with the kicking out of bounds, insufficient intent. I've mentioned it before. I hate that rule. And I think it was the Richmond game. No, was it the Collingwood one? It was Collingwood. I think we'll get to it. But
We'll get to it, yeah.
that makes some, like, you're not looking at reading the game and understanding what's happening, and the ball just goes off the side of the foot or something like that. Like, umpires fix that.
Yeah.
I
100%.
say, well, like we're saying, you don't want to know who the umpires are. There's only one umpire that I want to know who it is. And we all know it's David Roden. He's the only one I want to see on TV and go, it's David Roden. Because
Mate.
then he does the thing where he goes,
Big friend of the pod, David Roden.
big friend of the pod. Shout out to David, man.
Now, just
Good guy.
one more thing on this game before we move on, because George is very excited. He's about to jump out of his seat here.
What are you talking about?
I've just got a very quick message. I don't want to drag it on at all.
Alright.
Very, very quick message for Kane Corns, friend of the pod.
He's your friend.
He loves it. He eats it up. Kane Corns, sorry. This guy, he's got nothing better to do on the Sunday footy show than to completely kick North every time they're down. He loves it, mate. He's an absolute scumbag, in my opinion. Now, what's he done? He's showing footage of North Melbourne getting belted like it's news that we suck. Mate, we played one of the best team, if not the best team in the league, just about.
He highlighted the pressure.
He
That's what he
highlighted how bad we were. Congratulations. And he also called it the worst 5 minutes of football you'll see. Can we just take a pause here and remember that this man was participating in a grand final loss of 119 points? Buddy, selective memory. Let's move on.
Take that, Kano.
Take it, Kano.
Take that, Kano.
All right, George.
All right.
Talk to us about Carlton, mate, because I was sitting here watching North get belted, but in the corner of my eye, I couldn't help but notice the Blues had a big win.
We pretty much watched the same game, just different teams, different jerseys. Yeah, look, Carlton had a terrible game last week, with Saints. I wasn't there to shit on them, but Carlton fans were very disappointed, and they needed to come out with a big showing, albeit against a team that's not very strong, and therefore Carlton fans just wanted the Blues to feast a little bit and just have a good win. And then they did that, and I think that's the biggest margin I've ever seen Carlton win. Like I
think it is. I think it is.
108 points
win.
is a thumping, and that I couldn't have expected that. I always think there's no part of me that thought we're going to lose, and I don't think you should expect to lose against West Coast with their current predicament. But there is a way that you win, and to win by that much, that was just one-way traffic the whole game. So it's pretty fun to watch.
I'll tell you what, I did mention when we were tipping on the last pod with Matsa that not only did I need to see Carlton win, but I wanted score over 100 points and win by a solid margin, like 50 plus. And I'll tell you what, I wasn't expecting that, but they did it. Well done to them.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah,
I've got to give flowers to a certain curly-haired individual, I think.
Oh, of course. Ed Kerner?
Yes, of course, Ed. Nah, Charlie, man. Charlie, my boy.
Yeah,
Your boy.
He's a freak, man. He's a freak. Look, it goes to show, and there's another game where this happened this round too, which we'll talk about. But if you get the ball to a key forward in a 1-on-1, they kick goals. Fancy that.
Fancy that.
But I wonder if that's a strategy coaches may want to think about.
I know. Maybe North should try to get some more key forwards. But the thing with Kerno, not just that, not just the one-on-ones, it's when he provides an option running up the wing. He takes a mark and then he pinpoints a player who's free. He did it in the first goal of the game to Ollie Hollands.
That's right.
That was gorgeous, man.
Yeah.
That was gorgeous. And he got the kid his first goal. Flowers to Ollie Hollands, who's been pretty consistent as well. Good on the kid, man.
Yeah, no, you're right. Look, Charlie Kerner is the complete player. He's incredible. He's actually leading or equal to Jeremy Cameron now in the Coleman. So they're both statistically on their way to 100. It'll be interesting to see how close they can get this year, but they've both been incredible. Jeremy Cameron is a freak of nature. I still think he's the best forward in the game, but Charlie Kerner is like right under him.
To confirm your stats, 30 goals each, averaging 4.3 goals a game.
It's massive.
In the first 7.
Super consistent, and in a matchup like that where the defender was undersized, it was bound to lead in blood. And the only disappointing thing wasn't disappointing, but the only thing is I was hoping Kerner could get the 10, and he missed one pretty much from the goal square. And it was good that he put up his hand and said, "Look, it was on me to kick that."
Yeah, my bad.
Funny in the last quarter how they're just trying to get him the goal, and it kind of reminded me of years ago when Brendan Favola was trying to kick his 100th goal, and Hawks had like 8 defenders on Favola in the last quarter. It wasn't to this extent, but they were pretty aware of Kerner in the last quarter. Probably should have been aware of him earlier.
That might have helped, eh?
Yeah.
I've got a new favourite stat that I'm keeping tabs of in these interesting games, which is marks inside 50. I love a good mark inside 50. I think it's a real sign of how your team's going, to be honest. Because teams that just bomb the ball in there with no idea what they're doing generally don't do well with that, which was Carlton the last 2 weeks. 9 and 7 marks inside 50 for the entire game. How many did Kerno have by himself?
Wait, so say it again. How many?
The last 2 weeks,
Yeah.
Carlton as a team had 9 and then the next game 7 marks inside 50.
Yeah. So this game was 7.
This game coming, the last 2 weeks.
Oh,
Saints
sorry.
was 7.
Now I'm listening. I
Yep.
gotcha, man.
This week, Kerno had himself 11. So this guy just dominated.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd mention that fun little stat.
No, it's a good stat, man. That's a very good stat.
I will just add as well, George mentioned, it's crazy what happens when you get the ball in 1-on-1. The Eagles midfield matching up with the Carlton midfield, no contest, mate. Chera, Cripps, Walsh, they just dominated, mate.
Yeah,
They ate.
Yeah, they did eat. What did we say about West Coast? I try to think of positives. I've got 2, but they're the only 2 I could come up with.
Well, you watch the game, so
You go for
let
it,
us
man.
know.
All right. First positive is a game closer to the end of the season. So that's the first positive for them.
That's nice for them.
The second one is Jermaine Jones, actually, off the halfback. He's a pretty good player.
I feel like you've shouted him out like 2 or 3 of the last weeks or something.
I did. He's actually
He's
the
your
only
boy.
shining light, I think, of West Coast.
Jermaine Jones, man.
He's got speed. He looks lively. He's the only one that kind of looked like, oh, that guy's playing the game. So shout out to him.
Well done, Jonesy.
That's it.
Okay,
I got nothing from him. Let's go to
you got nothing more?
Actually,
Yeah.
one more thing I just
Go
thought
for
of.
it. Go
I
for
just
it.
thought of Collingwood, right? At the top of the ladder.
Yeah.
Yes.
Eagles aren't.
Unfortunately,
Eagles
no.
are last.
That is true. Yes. 2 facts in a row.
2 facts.
Wow.
Let me spit another one. They were in the grand final together in 2018.
Wow.
Oh,
So, in that period where they were both fighting for the flag, I know the Eagles won and that makes a difference, but they were both in the same position fighting for the flag. 5 years later, Collingwood's top of the ladder, West Coast is last. And West Coast is not rebuilding just yet. So, I don't know what's going on. They failed with COVID last year miserably, fielded players that weren't even on their list. This year, injuries galore. I know that they're struggling at the moment, but what is West Coast? What would you even do as the coach?
Very interesting you mentioned that, because after that grand final, it was actually Collingwood who was making some questionable decisions with their
Trelaws,
list. The fans were losing it.
Stevenson.
What's going on? And then all of a sudden, the script just flipped completely. And the Eagles now, like you said, the youngsters aren't many. I guess they're going to have to get more.
Mate, the Eagles are mild. They're 6 years away. They are in massive trouble.
yeah. I think another thing is that North will probably get another former player coming back as an assistant coach.
Adam Simo. Yeah, probably.
They said something about like he's won 2 games in the last 30.
Yeah, 3.
Something 3 in the last 30. He can't keep his job, man.
But the
Unless the boys really, really like him.
Yeah.
26
know.
available players this week.
And that's the thing. I don't think any coach can fix it, which is why they know that and they haven't sacked him yet. What I will mention as well, if this Tassie team is going ahead like it looks it is, this next couple drafts are going to be heavily compromised.
Oh, I didn't even think of that, man.
And this is the time for them to hoard those picks, and they're not going to be able to. At least North, like seeing as they were near the bottom with them, even the Hawks fans out there.
North and Hawthorn are rebuilding.
We've started in the last couple of years, whereas the Eagles haven't hoarded those picks yet, and time's running out.
It's a disaster.
Their best pick or their highest pick has been Jimby, who's pick 9. He could have been a top 5 pick the way he's playing, right? Him, before that, Chesser. Who else? I don't even know. They've had not a lot of first
They
round
got Oscar
talent.
Allen, Oscar Allen's good.
Yeah, he's a good player. I'm trying to think. They brought in Hewitt this year.
They've got maybe on one hand we can count how many promising first round talents they have. The rest, mate, they're going to have to get very lucky and recruit well and draft very, very well.
Yeah, be creative with their recruiting.
100%. Anyway, good luck, Eagles. Now, one team that's rebuilding pretty well, but not well enough. The Cats taught them a lesson. Decent win over the Bombers. Pretty convincing in the end. They sort of jumped them early and never looked back. Big Hawk kicked 8. So almost matched up with our boy Charlie. But what did you guys make of that game?
Well, the Cats, I don't know what they'll do in the first couple of rounds. I mean, did the fact that they had a smaller preseason affect them? But they're really going strong now. And from a team that was kind of in no man's land, now a top 4, people consider top 4 lock. They look so damaging. The old players are starting to get it again. Hawkins, big one. Dangerfield's had a massive year after not having a massive one last year. So they've got their momentum back, and they're the Cats. So they've built into their season nicely now.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, look, Hawkins really had to build his way into the season, and the 8 goals there. It's still 2 of the top 4 forwards in the league in their team. So, regardless of the poor start, they've got those 2 guys. Tom Stewart had a bit of a leave of absence in there, you know what I mean? And he's come back and he's played great footy. Yeah, it's still a very talented list. Holmes has, been consistent as well this season, providing the goods. Yeah, there's just a lot to like about Geelong.
They're a very, very experienced team with some big bodies, and they just punish the Bombers. Now, I want to give the Bombers some respect, though, because unlike the Swans last week, Geelong has scored 130 points or thereabouts 2 weeks in a row now. But unlike the Swans last week, the Bombers actually put up a fight, put in 104 points themselves. Yeah. That could have easily been another 50 to 100 point loss. So well done to them. But yeah, the Cats are really powerful, really experienced. I did mention last week, I praised the Bombers defenders being sort of that medium size, no true key defender, all help each other out. I'll Tell you what, they would have liked a bigger body on Hawkins. Zerk Thatcher just got
Yeah.
bullied.
Yeah, bad. I sure
He's half his size, mate. If you slice Hawkins in half, he's still bigger than Zerk Thatcher.
And he showed it.
I was gonna say it was a bit of a day for key forwards because Wiedemann low key kick 5.
Yeah.
Second time in a row now. Even the Anzac
Yeah.
Day game, he was great. He's had 2 fantastic games, but just circumstances of the match just overshadowed him.
Yeah. So
The other one is Stringer. Stringer's in good form, and he's a big X factor player for Essendon. A couple of years back when Essendon made the 8, Stringer in the second half of the year was probably the best player in the comp.
who's playing in the guts? I remember,
Yeah.
like he'd go in there.
He was
and
dominating.
and then finish the playoff in the forward line as well.
Yeah,
You know,
and
so
he's
he
not
was doing
quite
everything.
like that at the moment, but he still kicked 4 goals. He's he's the package. He's the package. So he's a controversial
that's it.
figure, but when he's up and about, he's making the team way better.
One player we did mention on the Supercoach pod, but for those who haven't seen that one yet, Patrick Dangerfield. As captain of the club, he's really stood up since they had that poor start. Only played about 65% of time on ground, but completely dominated. Contested possessions, inside 50s. Absolute beast.
You're right, and the Dons got jumped early, and then it kind of stayed at that margin throughout most of the game. So kind of evened up, but yeah, when you give away 30 points to the start of the match, you're chasing your tail, and they just couldn't keep up.
Yep. Fair enough. Anything to add on that one there, Matsa? Or
Nah.
good to move on?
I'm looking ahead at the next game, man, and it's just
Well,
panic stations for Richmond, man.
here's my take at the moment. Tigers are done. Forget finals. Forget even coming close to finals.
The dynasty is gone.
Dynasty's gone, unfortunately for them. Look, they had a good run, but I'll tell you what, these guys, I gave them the benefit of the doubt for a few weeks on this pod, saying they've been playing in the wet, they've had a tough fixture, we don't know what they're actually made of. And this was the game to just have a nice routine victory by at least a couple goals, just show that you're still relevant. And they just moved the ball so poorly in the defence, so many dumb turnovers, lacking the X factor. I know Lynch is out, but there's enough there to kick goals. Just really poor overall. Their fans should be very disappointed. And we'll get to the Sun soon, but yeah, the Tigers, they're done.
Yeah, it's got a sting being a Richmond fan watching that. That's like, and the thing is, I watched the first half of this game before the Collingwood one started, and it was painful to watch. The skills were shocking from both teams. No one wanted to actually press and make any scoreboard impact. And the Suns were actually on top. They were transitioning the ball nicely from the back half. They got some nice halfback players, but their connection to the forward 50 was as bad as like the worst of Carlton. Like just shocking, absolutely shocking. And then Richmond, being a better team, a classier team, was a little bit more efficient in getting opportunities, but were just shanking it in front of goal. And so it was just who's going to be worse for longer type of situation.
Yep.
And I know I switched it off, moved on to the other game, and the margin that Gold Coast had just continued. So it did look and threaten like if Richmond got their game going, they were going to blow Gold Coast apart, and they just didn't do it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I know that Richmond have injuries. Miller not playing. Gold Coast still kind of had the power in the midfield to keep going. So, weird game. I don't know. Just a weird game. But 6 points, Richmond, a draw and 1 win.
And the draw in that first game of the year, which, especially this year, we all sort of spoke about it. It was a weird game in the sense of big crowd, shaking off a bit of rust. So almost like that point that stole off Carlton, like the 2 points, it's sort of nothing, in my opinion. Like it was really just a bit of a write-off that game. So since then, they've had 1 win. And like I said, the benefit of the doubt, I'm done giving it to them. They're crap.
Well, they would have looked at this game and said, all right, time to get our win. We've had some tough opponents. Let's get our win, bank it, and move on. But the thing about Richmond is they weren't playing at home. They're playing too far away from home.
Mate, it's so funny how few of their fans go to the Marvel games.
It's
You
hilarious.
absolute sooks, mate. Just go.
The
Come on.
comment section of it's a tough game. Richmond played well, being so far from home. I was dying.
I know the weather conditions of Marvel as well. You know?
Mate, even North gets more fans at Marvel. Come on, man. Matsa, did you notice, I know you're sort of a keen Supercoach observer, Noah Anderson, that boy there, he can play. Now that Tuke Miller's out, he's sort of running that midfield. Do you think now that Tuke will come back, can maybe run that midfield and Tuke can play a bit more of a role player in the midfield and Noah is the more classy sort of ball user moving forward?
I'm gonna say no because I think Tuke Miller just has that. He's got that bit extra to him, man. Like I think his energy, his overlap, I think he's their best midfielder still, regardless of how Noah Anderson's going. But look, I don't know. Maybe it would fit them better if Noah Anderson is the guy, really, first hands onto it, and then Miller's.
That's fair.
I don't know.
The reason I ask is because I completely forgot. He seems like he's been playing a lot longer, but he and Matty Rowell are 22 years old.
Yeah. Best mates, pick 1 and 2 in the draft?
Yeah.
They were. They gifted.
These
they
guys,
gifted those
like,
picks,
he's
man.
22 years old and he's really shown last year, and this year is moving his form as well. Like, I still think there's heaps of untapped potential with him. He's really
There is.
impressive
And
in
Rowell
that.
as well. I mean, Rowell, his first 3 games were probably his best 3 games of his career. But the thing is, he's an extremely strong contested player. I don't know if he's going to develop the running game, but his 1%ers are really good. And he does complement Anderson, who is a bit more of that burst player. Rowell kind of gets the contested possessions, really high clearance contested possessions player. If every team needs one of those players. So they've
got pretty much 2, 3. You know what I mean? Like with Tuke and
their midfield isn't too bad with Weller as well. And they've put Lukosius now on the forward line to provide him with another option. Ben King's starting to hit some form, kicked a couple of goals as well, and he's quite accurate. Kick 4. He did well against North last week as well. Was it a week before that?
Yeah.
So Ben King is, still young as well, like his brother Max. Both had good seasons a couple of years ago. Obviously, Ben missed out with the ACL last year, but he's going to be a great player as well. So if they can keep these players in the club, not trying to leave, and fix some of the patch holes around the ground, then maybe they'll become something one day.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair call because you look at Ben King, the midfield group. Sam Collins is also a great defender as well. You know what I mean? So that's like the key posts sort of sorted out, which is a solid ruckman, even though he's mainly just a tap there for the taps, and he doesn't do too much more.
He gets a lot of clearances as well.
Yeah, that's fair call.
He's not going to run around the ground like a Tim English, but around the contest he'll still impact.
Well, let's see if they can string a few together because they have had some decent wins this year. This one here, obviously, whacked North. They beat the Cats. So a bit more consistency, and maybe their ceiling is a bit higher than we thought, but they haven't proven that in the past, so we can't get too carried away.
They're like a 12th, 13th team.
Yeah.
And they've been like that for a long time.
100%. Now, with this next game, boys, last game of the round, we were actually at a wedding, Matsa and myself.
Yes.
So shout out my brother. Now, we had a few Collingwood supporting family and friends gathering around a table at one point, and I thought, something's going on here.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, I just quickly walk over and I see the last 10 seconds of the game. And prior to seeing the score, the Pies up by a point, the last I heard was they were down 4 goals in the last quarter. And I'm like, these guys have done it again. And then I proceed to have some conversations discussing how the Pies are going this year. And one of my family members wanted me to pose the question to you boys on the pod, which is, how do they keep doing it? And why can't anybody stop them? Because it's getting out of control now.
Look, I think obviously effort is huge with those guys. They've got a lot of good runners. There was a point in the game where, what was it, Hoskin Elliott runs down Duday.
Huge.
And huge play, and then gets the slots the set shot. It's moments like that, that encapsulate the effort and the run that those guys have. Like, even their big key forward in like Myercheck, he's not the most talented type dude, but he's constantly running and crashing packs and effort after effort after effort. So it's
Man, that guy there, Myercheck, he kicked 2 goals late in the second quarter when the Pies were not playing well at all, and really opportunistic goals as well. And then he's kicked another one early in the third quarter. So within the space of, let's say, 10, 15 minutes, this guy's kicked 3 absolutely crucial goals for them. What about yourself, George? What's your take on the Pies and how they keep doing this?
Look, I could joke and just say that they're drug cheats, but in reality, I think it's the fact that, they've got evidence that they can come back because they've done it. And so they don't have to fake the belief. They don't, if we get our system right, if we play our way, they know they can do it because they've done it. And they've got the team that can actually play the type of football to take the game on and score really quickly. Other teams Obviously Carlton's the team I watch the most. I think they may struggle to get the run on and score goals quickly, especially from the halfback. They just don't have the team to do that. But the Pies do. They've got the running players, like Matsa said. Their skills are elite. They've got, them and Sydney probably the best two kicking teams. And so they just know they can do it. And at the end of the day, footy, there's a limited time. So you got to the point where the clock's ticking, time to go. And they go throughout the whole game, but when they really, really have to do it, they just have to take the game on because they've got no other option. And so they get going and they kick a couple of goals. And I think other teams just get nervous. They don't know how to stop it. Oh, no, Collingwood's doing the thing that they do. And instead of playing the game the way that got Adelaide the lead in the first place, they shut down a little bit, play into the hands of Collingwood, and they get on top. So it's pretty crazy to see that they didn't look anywhere near it.
Well,
Collingwood. And they just found a way. Side bottom's kicking a point to win it.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. And in the second quarter, they kicked 2 behinds. Oh, sorry. The score at one point was 3 goals 10 to 2 behinds. So the Crows could have been up by more, should have been up by more.
Yeah, they were wasteful.
In the last 28 games, here's a few stats for you. In the last 28 games, the Pies have been in 17 of those decided by under 14 points. So a lot of close games. They've only lost 2 of them, which is wild. And they were both in the finals last year.
It's clutch, man.
They're unreal. Now, I've sort of been thinking about it as well. How do they keep doing this? And my point of view is this. Their leaders are exceptional footballers, not only in skill, but in IQ. Sidebottom, Pendlebury, Darcy Moore. Yeah. Absolutely elite mentality and execution. And then on the other end of their team, they're players from about 18 to 22 in the squad. We just mentioned a few. Hoskin Elliott, Myercheck, Johnny Noble kicked a clutch goal, the winning goal
Incredible goal, man. Arches the back.
There's a whole bunch of them. Even Ginnivan's not a lock in the team, but you'd consider him on the back end of the squad. All these guys, McCreary, who George will race if we hit 100 subs.
That's it.
These guys here are the back end of their list, but they're so crucial to the way they play, and they're all very smart players, all very powerful in their own way. Ginnivan with his explosiveness and agility. Obviously, McCreary is just a really powerful unit as well. So I think they've got that mix of great leaders, and then the middle players like your Jack Crisps and that, just so solid. And then the back end are just really reliable and really selfless role players. And it's just a perfect storm. Like you said, when the going gets tough, time's running out, they just have that mentality, the system, and the other teams are just getting nervous now.
Yeah. I think you're right about the evenness of their team. They don't, who's their worst player? You can't, you're not going to be able to pick it. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of the Richmond era when everyone played their role, and it wasn't they had some superstars like Dusty, for example, but they had their team is that guy's in the team. Oh, I guess he's pretty good. That guy's in the team. He's pretty good. Collingwood's the same. But it's interesting you mentioned Pendlebury and Dacos. I think this is the game that Collingwood were vulnerable. They're at Adelaide with Adelaide Oval crowd. Ben Keys is a great matchup for Dacos, and Pendlebury's not playing. So the theory in my mind was shut down Dacos with Ben Keys, and they shut down Dacos. He still got the ball, but a lot of it was kick-ins. He wasn't effective with the ball at all, under a lot of pressure. He couldn't get any cheap possessions because he always had someone on him. It was either Keys mostly, but then Dawson popped in, Laird popped in. They just watched him. Didn't allow him to deliver any or transition any of the ball, and that affected them big time. And Pendlebury wasn't playing, who is their key leader, decision maker. Pendlebury just doesn't make mistakes, right? So they didn't have that, and they were losing, and it became clear. Stop Dacos. Pendlebury isn't playing, and Pendlebury and Sidebottom won't be around forever. Maybe there's the chink in the Collingwood armour. And I was like, oh, cool. Make sure that Carlton tags Dacos. And then they still won.
Yep.
Then my theory's out the window. They were scrunch up the paper and throw out.
The Pies were
back to the drawing board.
Yeah, the Pies were in front in the game for a total of 21 seconds. And it was the last 21 seconds of the match. Crazy. I did want to say as well, young Rochelle for the Crows, gun player, but there was the play right at the end of the game where he's on the wing. There's a guy right in front of him to handball to, who then had 2 options open in the 50, and he instead went for a hack kick forward. So the Crows had it in their own hands. I think your point.
They should have buried them early.
They should have.
Yeah, they should have done what they did against the Blues early. Yep. They just were wasting in front of goal. They didn't put enough scoreboard pressure on, and if you give the window open to Collingwood, you're in trouble. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, like, I've had a lot of good things to say about Rochelle, but this one's gonna stink for him because obviously that kick directly into the hands of Darcy Moore at the end of the game that hurts. It was 4 behinds, and I know one of them was touched off the boot and it was a goal, but still, like there was a couple set shots in there that you've got to sink 1 or 2 of them. You know,
learning
what I mean?
experience, I guess.
Yeah, and he'll bounce back. He's a great player. You know what I mean? Friend of the pod, so he'll be good, man.
I did want to mention as well on a point you mentioned, George. Is there maybe a chink in the armor? It does beg the question: why are they always, not always, but they are behind in a lot of these games where they end up having to come back? Happened last week. Happened the other night. So it begs the question: if they've got this system that can get them on a run and with all the momentum, why not apply it in the other parts of the game? So it must be something they're doing which isn't sustainable, but it's enough to get you going for 20 odd minutes and really swing the momentum of the game. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just do it the whole time and not be losing?
Is it like when you're playing FIFA and you go ultra attacking?
It must be, man.
Like, is that what's going on? Because when you go ultra attacking and you go team press, all of a sudden all your players lose all stamina. Is that what it is? Like, and you only pull it out when you got to pull out all the stops.
It has to be. Like, you can't run forever. No matter how fit they are, they can't run forever.
Yeah. But it's crazy how they can switch that high intensity play on at the end of the game. Why not just start with that game plan, build up a huge lead, and then play more reserve?
I think it's
wild.
I think it's partly Collingwood, but partly other teams getting scared and going into their shell and just allowing them to run through it. I don't know.
And I guess their first gear is good as well, man. Like it's not like they're in this predicament every week where they're down.
100%.
Yeah, they're starting games, and well as well. So
look, they're the team to beat, Collingwood.
I reckon.
I'm gonna call it the FIFA ultra attacking.
Ultra attacking Pies.
And team pressing as well. That's what it is for the Pies.
100%. Now, we have to talk about the umpires because these guys, we mentioned it earlier in the North game, that was an isolated incident.
Yeah.
But in this game here, mate,
some shockers.
I'm just sick and tired of seeing umpires pay free kicks. It happened a handful of times on the weekend where a ball up would happen on the wing and the whistle's just blown, holding the man, and all the players run away because none of them knew who the free kick was for because it's such a stupid free kick to pay. They're all holding each other, mate. Then on the other end, they're missing these high front-on contact. Mate, Nathan Murphy got probably concussed again. He's bleeding from the nose.
Fogarty tried to kill him.
He did almost.
Like, legit, he tried to kill the boy.
How is that not a free kick? And then in the goal square, I believe it was Ash Johnson's running into an open goal. Collected clothesline from behind.
And then he got one of these ones.
I'm not a Pies fan. I couldn't care less if they won or lost. But I just can't stand these umpires paying these tacky free kicks around the ground and missing the most obvious ones. Just do the simple things right. And stop mucking around with this rubbish, mate, because no one likes to see such horrible missed calls. George, I know you're pretty passionate about these guys as well. You don't like the deliberate out of bounds. You don't like a few of these new rules, but some of these calls...
I hate when the umpires aren't reading the game. And the deliberate out of bounds one is an example of that. Not just because it goes out and there's not an obvious player there doesn't mean that it was intentional. And the umpires have never said... Like, we know that they kind of do like the last kick out of bounds, but they've never come out and said that that's the rule.
Exactly
so I don't care that they interpret it that way. They've never said it. That's not the rule. Like, have some common sense.
It's shocking, man. Yeah, like I said, they pay those tacky ones where players are literally running away after the whistle blows because they don't know whose free it was. And then the umpire's calling the name out, trying to get them back on the ball, wasting 20 seconds. It's like, mate, if that player didn't even know he was being held, why are you blowing the whistle? Like, just let the game happen. They're absolute idiots, man.
I just thought of it now. The score review thing. I hate the score review, man.
I love how they jump to the snickometer after like 30 seconds. Yeah. Everyone's like, mate, just go to that right away.
The score reviews. Did you touch it? Did you touch it?
100%.
All right, man.
They've got a lot to work on. Anyway.
Is the snicko thing, is it on the ball or is it on the post?
Has to be the post.
No, fair enough. Can you imagine if they could do it on the ball? You know what I mean? Put that sort of technology
Probably possible.
You work out how hard the ball was kicked, what speed the ball's traveling.
Yeah, so it's beyond the
and the ball can actually, once it goes out of bounds, can actually move itself back.
So then umpires stop running
it's-
into players.
It's,
maybe.
you know, this is clicking to me. It's a horrible idea because, like, if I was at a footy game and I marked one of those fucking,
And it's got legs.
sorry for that, like a $2,000 ball that can, knows how far it's getting kicked, I'm stealing it.
Mate, all our money's now gone, right?
Yeah, bad.
100%.
Demonetized forever.
All good.
Oh.
Now, all right, I think we all got that off our chest, especially Matsa.
Yeah, if this sauce goes.
Let's get into the tipping for
PG friendly.
PG.
I think that's the first time like that. How many episodes are we in? And that's the first time I've sworn.
That's all right.
Considering how much you swear in your real life.
I
that's
know
amazing.
this is really yeah.
I'm
no.
just surprised I wasn't in Greek.
I know, true. Next one.
All right, let's do some tips. Actually, we always forget this. Let's review our tips from last week quickly. We got the Saints tip wrong. Unfortunately, we got Brisbane right. We got the Giants tip wrong, and I actually did tip the Giants, so that one's on you boys. Doggies beat the Hawks. We got that. We got Melbourne. We got Carlton. We got the Cats right. We didn't get the Suns right. Thanks, Richmond. And we did not... Actually, we did get the Pies right. I think we tipped the Pies. So in all of that, I think we only got 2 games wrong. Just a pretty solid effort. So well done, boys. Let's try back it up this week. Friday night. Blues hosting the Lions at Marvel.
I think the Marvel is the key. I'm going to back in Carlton. I'm feeling lucky. Not too confident, but it is Marvel. It is probably our best ground. We know that Brisbane don't travel as well. They're significantly stronger at the Gabba. Very good team. Hopefully the momentum from that massive win brings the Blues some confidence to come in and play their way. And yeah.
Well, I think my last memory of the Lions at Marvel was that horrible game they played against the Dogs. So you mix in that with what we know about their away form as it is, Carlton coming off a big win. I'm happy to go Carlton this week. I think it's a great opportunity to back it up against a good team.
Which means I go for Brisbane because then I look like a genius if they win. But no, to be honest, I'm kind of leaning towards the Carlton end as well. To be honest with you, just with exactly what you guys have said. Brisbane don't travel well. It's at Marvel. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Sounds good. Next game is a pretty easy one. So you would think the Tigers hosting the Eagles at the G. Surely the Tigers get their win this time.
So
Without a doubt.
I was gonna say, ask me the question. Do I think?
Do you think the Eagles are a chance?
I'll give you 3 letters. NAW. No.
Nice.
Richmond are gonna go in there, and they need to respond. They
must.
need to respond, and they're gonna win. So, sorry, West Coast. It's NAW.
It is a very hard narrative to sell that the Tigers lose at home to the
Imagine
Eagles.
if they lost.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious, man.
It would be. Okay. What about the Cats hosting the Crows at GMHBA? It's hard to go past Geelong.
Cats at home.
Any chance for the Crows, Matsa?
Nah. So we've gone NAW to NAH. Nah.
Nah. Fair enough.
No, I'm happy with Geelong as well, man.
Now, the Suns have a great opportunity to take a big scalp here, hosting the Ds. If they're a serious team, they give them a game at least.
I think they'll give them a game.
You think so?
Yeah, but they won't win.
Matsa, can they give them a game and win? Or are they going to give them a game and lose?
No.
Fair enough. All right, Melbourne. Now, this game's always got a bit of feeling in it. Back in the day, they had that elimination final, couple fights in it. The Giants hosting the Dogs.
This is an interesting one, man, because GWS are starting to find a little bit of form. They've had 2 close wins. They had the loss against Brizzy, which, was a good effort. And the Bulldogs also getting a couple of W's in the last few weeks.
Feel like we might be genuinely split on this one, actually.
Yeah.
Because George loves a home team.
Mate,
Georgie does love a home team.
Dean already knows what I'm
I
going
know
for.
George's mind.
Yeah, and he loves the Giants as well. I'm going to go with the Doggies, man.
So I'm the deciding factor here.
You're the deciding, mate.
You're right.
You know what? Seeing the Dogs struggle a bit against the Hawks has me thinking now the Giants find a way to stay in games, and they've got match winners. We've mentioned Himmelberg, Toby Green. I think they can do it.
All right,
I'm going to go
there
with the
we
Giants.
Fair enough.
Next game, Freo hosting the Hawks at Optus Stadium. This one can go either way as well.
Oh, this is not honestly like it's not an automatic Freo win, even though it's in Perth.
Well, the Hawks midfield is actually performing, and Freo isn't.
Yeah, and Mitch Lewis comes in.
Yep. I'm going Hawks.
I want to go. It feels wrong. It feels wrong to just go with the Hawks. But I'm going to do it as well. Let's do it. It feels
I'm going for it. It feels so wrong going for the Hawks. So wrong, so
But
right.
they've shown quite a bit in the last few games, like we
But
said.
they have to travel to Perth, man.
Mate,
Yeah,
$3.19. Not bad.
Well, team
odds.
bonding experience.
Hey, lads, $3.19 for
Team
Hawks.
bonding when they win.
Even North won in Perth, mate. Come on.
Yeah, that's true.
Hawks can do it too. Port is hosting the Bombers in Adelaide. This is a huge game. I'm purely going emotional Bombers here. I need Port to lose. Give us that top 10 pick, baby.
Port.
Yeah, no, I'm going with Port as well, man.
Really? No case for the Bombers? They've been pretty good lately.
I want to
They're
get some.
competitive.
We want to get some tips, man. I want to get some
Wow.
Yeah,
tips.
we're trying to get tips, man.
I think,
Yeah.
despite my emotions getting in the way here, why aren't they a chance? They've almost beaten Collingwood, put in 100 points against Geelong, who's in great form.
Port are good, and they're at home.
All right, we'll see.
At the moment, Port are in form, and you would say that they're ahead in their development. Then
But the law of averages means that Port has to lose at some point.
that's only for Supercoach. Man. That's only for Supercoach and for fantasy
Fair
sports in general. And I never follow that rule, and I have to start. So yeah.
Fair enough. Okay.
Anyway.
So we're going Port there. Collingwood is hosting the Swans at the MCG. The Swans can't possibly be considered as a chance in this one, considering form.
Yeah, I looked at this, and this could have also been my NAW now as well. To be
Ooh.
honest with you, but
Who's
I
going to
already-
stop the Pies at the MCG?
Not the Swans. Not this
No,
week.
Not the Swans.
You wouldn't have thought.
They're not that guy.
They're not that guy.
You're not that guy. You're not that guy, pal.
And who also isn't that guy is North Melbourne against anybody at the moment.
Yeah,
Let alone
nah,
the Saints.
Saints are gonna smack
So,
us. They're gonna smack
Saints
us.
by about 65.
You want to go to that game?
I'm in Gold Coast, actually. So that sort of wraps up the pod for the week. And good that you mentioned that. I'm going to be away most of next week, including the pod recording nights. So the boys will be taking over.
Dean's been managed.
Yeah, I'll be out with being managed. So
Sort of ruined the surprise, but yeah, nah, just a little warning, I guess.
that's all right.
We're not gonna have a host, so Georgie and I we're gonna be it's gonna be shambles.
No, you boys will be fine.
Nah.
Be sure to check it out. Obviously, we've got all the socials happening.
We'll just play
Facebook.
like a chess game or something like that.
Yeah, true. I can't play chess.
No, I'll teach you chess while we're talking about footy.
Yeah.
For next
God.
pod.
All right,
All
done.
Just
Done.
bear with
It's
them
like-
for 1 week. I'll be back the week
I was
after.
gonna say, what is this like? Andrew Tate and the other
We've
guy.
already started.
Who's the
Dean-
guy?
Dean's
It
trying to
was,
outro.
it was Tate and what's his name? The
Oh,
guy.
Piers
the English-
Morgan.
Piers Morgan. Want to do the chess game?
I'll be Tate, you be Morgan.
Oh,
Why do I have to
I
be?
wanna
Why do I have
Tate.
to be? Why do I have to be the fat English
We're in
guy?
trouble. I was trying to do the outro here, boys.
Yeah, well, he's not going to be here, so don't worry about it.
No, yeah, true, man. The next, it's not going to be about footy. The next one.
God help us. all.
Sorry, guys.
All right, outro, baby, outro. Hit
I
it.
was just going to say, yeah, check out all the socials. We've got, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. I've been using the admin powers I now have to comment on a few articles. So if you see the Enjoyers name out there, give it a like. Follow us
Done.
there. What else have we got going? Obviously, Spotify.
TikTok slowly.
Yeah, I got to post on TikTok.
Yeah, George has
but I will.
You will.
That's it, mate.
And
Get it
Dean's
going.
going to post. Mats is going to post on Twitter.
Yeah, and Instagram, of
All
course.
right. Finally, I'll start posting on Twitter. Man.
And a reminder again as well, please subscribe because George will race Bo McCreary once we hit 100 subs. So we're almost there now.
And
Um,
it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one.
Tough
It's going
for
to be as close as North Melbourne and Melbourne.
Look,
think.
I reckon Bo McCreary's scared. To be honest with you, I don't even know if he's going to rock up.
He's not that quick, man. It's animation.
CGI, yeah.
Yeah, it's CGI.
That's
It's
fair.
that one.
Well, we'll only find out in one way, so hit the sub button. Otherwise, thanks for watching. The boys will see you next week. I'll see you in a fortnight. But yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.